check in, you know, last letter, A, B, C, D, and then so forth, so we don't have everybody jumping in all at once.
I think that's what they did for the Marple Newtown on the air meeting.
Yeah.
That would be a smart way to check into nets too, if you think about it.
Yeah, we don't need people stepping all over each other. I got an
Right.
idea we're gonna have a good turnout tonight.
Yeah, Jeremy, the reason I'm here a little early is because I actually have an HOA meeting in about 15 minutes. So I was just stopping by, saying hi,
All right.
you know, sort of an eyeball QSO a little bit, I guess you could say, the virtual version.
Okay, what's your call sign, Dan?
KC3NUL, Nancy Uniform Lima.
Okay, great.
We have an N3NUL in the club.
That's
Get out of town.
Bob's brother.
That's funny.
Is that Bob's brother?
Yeah, that's Bob's brother.
That's
Get out of town.
Bob's brother.
That's funny.
Is that Bob's brother?
Yeah, that's Bob's
That's
Get out of town.
brother.
That's funny.
Is that Bob's brother?
Get out of town.
Somebody's looking to the streaming and then repeating it here and then going back out on the streaming.
Yeah, I think that was me. Sorry about that.
I was listening this afternoon when the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds were out, and boy, the radio waves were very active. I put my little HT on scan, and just it was stopping every repeater. Everyone was talking about it, which was fun. That's at least something interesting, you know.
Dennis, you look good from Egypt.
I actually took that picture.
That's pretty cool.
We were there in January, and then we made it to Greece the first week of March, and we made it back home without getting stopped at the border.
I guess that's called luck, huh? Couldn't have planned it any better.
So would one of you be willing to get added as a co-host, because we need to admit people into the room? So are any of you familiar with Zoom?
Yeah, I could do that.
All right, I'll add you as a co-host. Yeah, because we have the waiting room enabled. So if people want to come in, do you have the participants list up?
You bet your bird.
And then, yeah, if you catch them before I do, you can let them in. And if we get any Zoom bombers, we'll have to take care of that too.
Well, it's smart. It's smart. You almost have to do it these days because
Yeah,
people are looking for meetings to Zoom bomb, or just, I don't know, just wayward individuals. Even if they don't intend to, they end up walking in on it, and it's just, I don't know. I wish people had better things to do with their lives, honestly.
yeah. All right. Yeah, so I will have a brief announcement about public service for Bob, so I'll read that.
I'll have a brief announcement about technical.
Okay. Has anybody been doing any radio activity lately?
Of course. What else are we going to do?
Yeah,
Isn't that the truth?
I've been checking into a lot more nets lately.
I'll tell you, I don't know how I existed without a pen adapter on my HF rig. It's unbelievable.
Living without the waterfall, it's like driving blind, right?
No, just to see what's on the band, for Pete's sake. You could watch
Yeah.
signals coming up.
I'm gonna shut off the light here. Better lighting.
Yeah, I saw a picture of one of the local Channel 6 reporters, and they have this like fancy light set up right in front of their, right sort of off to the side of their laptop, so that to give them that like studio lighting feel. I'm like, I don't have anything like that in here. I wish I had something that, you know, make me a little bit more attractive, but doesn't really work.
Well, you can do the virtual backgrounds. I think you have to be a registered user. You have to set up an account.
Yeah. But that affects the stuff behind me. It doesn't
Yeah.
fix the foreground issues.
Let's see. Oh, I could do that.
Is that Arecibo or some kind of radio antenna?
Yeah. That is,
Radio
yeah,
That's too
telescope?
small to be Arecibo, believe me.
yeah, that's much
What is that?
smaller than Arecibo. That's the Reber telescope. It was Grote Reber, who was probably the first radio astronomer.
Wow.
That's the telescope that he built in his backyard, basically. In fact, I should get out of the way so you can see it. Yeah, they now have it set up at Greenbank, West Virginia.
National Radio Quiet Zone, right?
Yep.
That's pretty cool. I've always wanted to go there, but I was a bit, like, terrified of any kind of RF getting out and getting pulled over.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about when I was there, maybe putting some of my big antennas on the back and then seeing what happens.
Right, leaving it disconnected, but putting like the pigtail inside, you know, inside your car or something like that, but just having an antenna up on your, see what they say.
I was like having the 8-foot whip right
Oh,
in the back of the
oh,
car.
you will get a lot of attention with that one.
Yeah.
Hi, guys. Anybody hear me?
Yeah, Al. Yeah, you just went mute now, but we heard you for a second there.
Okay. Greetings from sunny Florida.
Hey, how are you down there?
Probably about the same as you guys are up there at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve and Steve will probably be here tonight.
Yeah, I know. I know Eichler said he'd be here. I haven't heard from Steve Warner.
I think he said he would try to, so I'm not sure if he'd get in or not. Also, that's one advantage we do have meeting online is we have folks who are out of the area. I think commuting to Paoli's a little bit far for you down there in Florida.
Yeah, it's a little tough to run up there on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, I mean, Newtown Square is 2 miles closer, but I don't think it makes much of a difference at that point.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah. Ah, and speak of the devil, Steve just signed in. I saw Alan Johnston for a second there, but maybe he dropped out. Happy. Might be Fred. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Well,
Very good. How are you?
Pretty good. Ah, Jim.
I'm wearing my Eagles shirt. I'm still a Philadelphian at heart.
All right.
how is it down in Florida?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How's it down in Florida?
Oh, we hit about 80 degrees today. Sunny, beautiful day.
Yeah, rub it in, why don't you?
Hey, we have to. That's the Chamber of Commerce says we have to do that.
But I thought
That's
we
why
weren't
people
allowed
do it.
down as tourists now. I heard at the Florida border, they're stopping everybody and checking license plates and taking your information
Uh-huh.
to make sure you quarantine all us Northerners.
Mhm.
I know they're doing that in Delaware, because I actually heard people talking. I forget which repeater they were talking on, but they were actually saying, they were like, yeah, I'm going down to ham radio outlet. And the guy was like, that's in Delaware, right? And he's like, yeah, why does that matter? He said, well, the second you get off any of the main interstates like 495 or 95, they'll, like the more local, like US highways or local roads and stuff like that. They said that the police are actually, that they're actually checking, like if they see an out-of-state license plate, they're going to pull you over.
So we really do have the zombie apocalypse now, right?
It's as close, it's as close as I guess we've gotten as of late. We'll put it that way. Yeah, so you can't. I don't know. It's like ham radio outlet's not. It's like almost right off of 495. I've been there a few times, and I feel like if you can make that whatever, it's like a quarter mile, right? I think down 13. I think US 13 it is, or US 11, and I think you're safe. And you just got to speed up and get back on to 495 before the Delaware State Police can catch you.
So you got to run it like a bootlegger. You go late at night with the lights off.
Jeremy, let me show you this really soon, because if you're into
Yeah.
that, take a look at this. Can you see it? Can you see the dish?
Oh yeah.
That's K2UYH in Mercerville, outside of Trenton.
Cool.
I was in the Signal Corps, so I got him access to a surplus dish when they closed out Fort Monmouth, and as you can see, a whole crew of us carted it to his house. That's Alan Katz up at Trenton State.
What's the diameter on that?
Just look at the size of the people compared to the dish.
Yeah, it looks like 30 feet, something like that.
It was fixed elevation. It had a track, and basically, you just sort of screw it around. I hope the moon shows up in the right spot.
So pardon my ignorance, but what would you use that for? What?
He was big into EME, Earth, Moon, Earth.
Oh, okay.
That's what's called moon bounce. This
Moon bounce. Yeah. I've heard of.
This picture is circa 1973.
Yeah, I figured it was the 70s. I could tell kind of by the outfits.
Also, it was a 35 millimeter dirty slide that I scanned in.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah. I have to apologize. I do have to depart before 7, but it was nice. It was nice getting on and at least introducing myself a little bit. And hopefully, when the next Zoom meeting or next in-person meeting, I can actually stay longer. Looking forward to actual in-person meetings, but for now, I think we're stuck with the virtual stuff for now.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Yep, sounds good. All right, thanks, Jeremy. I will be. What'd you say?
Hopefully the check gets in soon, right?
They said sometime later this week. It might even be early next week, but I'll bug them and see if it gets there sooner, and I'll let you know.
Yeah, Dan's our newest member, or member to be. His
Yes.
check is on the way.
Believe me, I guess that's my first test. Yeah, test is it? Do you actually believe me that the check's actually on its way? So
Our main requirement for membership is the check has to clear. I think that's it. Once you get through that, that's the bar.
It might be a pretty high bar for some people. So all right, well, good to meet everyone, and I'll see you guys either on a net or at another virtual meeting. So thanks for having me, even though my stay was brief.
All right, take care. And we
All
will
right.
record this, so you can always check it out later.
Oh, perfect. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Thank you so much, and see you guys later.
Well, we had a college engineering retreat today, and the word on the street is that this fall is going to be online. It's not going to be in person.
So they've made the decision.
No, but everybody seems to be falling into that vein.
Yeah, I think at Villanova, we're still thinking about it. I know the provost has a task force and they're examining everything.
So rather than have football in the fall, we're going to have Madden, 2004. We're just going to play it, video game.
Well, there was a British sports announcer, and he was doing these play-by-plays of just people pushing shopping carts through the the supermarket. Oh, and right through the pasta aisle. He gets the last one. All this good stuff. Guess we're trying to entertain ourselves in different ways.
The first time I went to a supermarket in the UK, my wife wanted to see what their fares were. There was a 40-foot long open freezer type compartment filled with peas. Because if you've ever been to the UK, you always get peas with your meal, whether you want them or not.
With your black pudding and all of that. Oh, so Jim, you're not happy anymore.
I know, I changed my name.
Yeah.
How's everybody?
Good, good.
Good.
I guess we're expecting more, huh?
Oh yeah, I should turn on the repeater in case there's people trying to get in.
Hi, Dennis. How you been?
I've been fine now. Good to see you in the flesh.
Good to see you too.
Are you actually on the beach, or is that just an add-on? It's an add-on.
No, it's just a background photo. They won't let us on the beaches yet.
I don't know if I told you the Florida story about my sister. My sister's WB2PWI. She's been licensed since 1967. So I gave her I guess I gave her a Woshan HT when she first moved to Naples. She gets on the local repeater, and they were all welcoming her to amateur radio. Meanwhile, she was licensed for 50 years.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, very good. She's still down there?
Yeah, she's still down there. Yep.
Yeah, very good. It's a nice area.
Hey, Fred, welcome.
I don't think they recognized the WB2.
You're
call.
muted.
That was the problem.
Ah, very
Yeah,
good.
that could be. That could be.
There you are.
Dennis, can you boost your volume a little bit?
I can eat the mic. That should be better. I hope.
Well, aren't you supposed to stay 144 megahertz away from the microphone?
No, only a quarter wave. It's all the way up. That's the best we can do at the moment. Hello. Yep. Well, let's take this off. Hello. No, hello. That's not any better.
Are we going to have a contest to see who needs a haircut the worst?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't. I cut my own hair. So.
Yeah, I need one pretty bad, but I'm not going to go to Georgia to get one.
Well, Rich, you don't even need a mask. You could just split the beard up. That could be your face covering.
I think I won hands down.
Yeah.
I was due for one when they closed everything down.
Yeah, but just think of all the money we're saving.
Rich, do you trim your own beard?
I have a barber who takes such pride in taking care of my beard that he has my picture on the wall, and he bought a red cape just for me. So, I'm a celebrity at the barber shop. I've been going to the same barber for 30 years.
Very good.
No, you try and do your own beard, you end up cockeyed. It's like trying a woman doing her bangs, they go uphill or downhill. So I put up with it.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Vince. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Are you in the Radio Shack?
I am actually.
All right.
In the office. AKA my office.
Hey, Vince.
How
you doing?
Jim? All right, Jim.
Good.
Is that Jeremy's picture window, or does he have a big picture on the wall that he's using?
That's a virtual background. That's the Reber radio telescope. So that was built back in the 1930s. So he was Probably the first sort of serious radio astronomer, because there was Carl Jansky before that, but he was an engineer. He was looking to track down some noise sources. So he built this kind of a, not quite a Yagi array. I think it's called a Bruce, is a type of antenna. It's kind of a Yagi, but it has folded elements. So you could operate it in either vertical or horizontal polarization.
Oh, okay.
Reber built that in his backyard. So I think he was in, might have been Illinois or Missouri, someplace in the Midwest. So he basically did a sky catalog of radio sources. And now they rebuilt his radio telescope. It's in Green Bank, West Virginia.
They still
It's
use
right
it.
in the entrance.
Is it there for show or do they still operate it?
It's there for show. I don't think it has any detectors or anything hooked up to it. The scope that they're using now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5.
See if I got a picture of it. That's what they're using now. Let's get out of the way. That is the Green Bank telescope. Can't even see the whole thing. That is the Senator Robert C. Byrd Green Bank radio telescope. So that I think is 2 or 3 football fields in size. I think it's 110 meters by 110 meters.
How many $1 million was that?
Many, many. I think it's the largest fully steerable object on land. So I guess
Wow.
besides aircraft carriers and things like that. And the whole thing, like you're sitting there watching, just kind of goes like that. And they steer it around. And you know, the
Wow.
funny thing is you come into the property and you look at it and you go, that's not too big. And then you realize it's still 2 miles away. And you can't even drive near it. They don't allow any cars beyond the front gate because of the ignition noise.
Jeremy,
So they only have diesel cars. that have
I
been
just adjusted my
inspected.
mic. Is it any louder?
No.
No.
What's going on then? I have to get a new mic.
Maybe you got to turn your mic gain up.
It's up to 100.
And people that can't hear you probably have to turn their speaker volume up.
Is that an external mic?
Well, I got 2 choices. I got the HD webcam, which has a mic, and this is the external mic.
Did you try the webcam?
Well, I'll not try the webcam now. I think I'm on the webcam now, I think.
It was a little better.
Is it really? Because that's actually across the room. I mean, on top of the monitor. I'll just yell. That's all. Easy.
Yeah, for some reason, I found that external mics don't play well with Zoom for some reason.
Mhm.
Almost everyone who uses one, they have problems with either audio gain or it clips in and out.
Have
Maybe
to
it's
check that.
overmodulating.
Dennis, I got something for you here.
I can use that. That looks good. Sure.
Yeah, it's got a fresh battery.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, if I still have audio, I'm going to leave it like that for now. I'll just eat the mic.
So Jeremy, does that look familiar back there?
Ah,
Yeah, I don't think you're allowed on campus right now. I might have to call public safety. Well, they got the Oreo is all fenced off now. They're doing rehabilitation on it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right at the center of the Villanova campus.
They sent
That's
that to
Core
me
Hall in
a
the background.
couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was nice. Bunch of pictures.
Yeah, the little statue in the foreground there, that's called the Oreo. Even though it's kind of reversed, the white parts are on the outside. I think it's technically called the Awakening, but everybody calls it the Oreo.
Well, anyway, I'm using my headset to speak into. How's the audio?
You're good. You're
Loud
good.
and clear.
Okay.
You might be the counterexample of my, right after I tell everyone that headsets don't work. So Fred, that was a great presentation you gave to the other club earlier in the month.
Yeah, I think I'm going to, was a couple things I didn't include in it. I think I'm going to re-record it and post it.
That would be good. Now, do you find that latency is an issue when you're using the online SDRs? Like if you're
Very
trying to get-
slight.
So I figured there has to be some, because if you're trying to break into a pileup or something and using them for receive, you're going to be a little behind.
You got to guess.
Yeah. Because I think that's something I could do here, because you can see my setup. That is everything that I have. I have no access to outside. So all of my antennas are indoor, unless I run a wire out the window, which I shouldn't do for any length of time. But sometimes I'll do that if I want to get on the air. I'll just run a wire out the window for a few hours, as long as I don't get caught. So, the problem with an indoor antenna, I'm sure I can transmit on it, but the receive has a very, very high noise level. I'm like S9.
One of the things I do with an SDR is early in the morning when I'm waking up, I'll grab my cell phone and get on one of the local SDRs, either Washington, D.C. or the one up in Pennsylvania, and see what's coming in terms of DX. And if you get up early enough, sometimes you catch a band. I caught a band opening to Australia. And so I quickly ran downstairs, turned on the transceiver, and tuned to that frequency. And sure enough, I got the guy.
Nice.
What band was that there?
I was 20, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, watch out, Lou. You got twisters. There's a twister coming.
Those things are scary in the Midwest because they just come rolling right along and you never know how they're going to turn. I was in Memphis, Missouri, living back in the 70s, and one came through. The town I was in is perched on a hill, so the tornadoes used to go up the hill and then bounce a little bit and go over the town. We had one that came pretty close to the yard, and so I found straw and things embedded in the oak tree. But the town down the road, about 15 miles, Cahokia, they got hit hard in Missouri. It was an amazing thing to watch.
So I got 713 here. So we got 12 people in here. We got 3 watching on YouTube. Hopefully we'll pick up a few more. Hey, Bill, welcome. I'll give a quick overview of what we have here. If you go to the lower left of the screen, there's the little microphone icon and the little camera icon, so you can turn your audio and video on and off. If you do want to temporarily unmute, the space bar is your push to talk. So you just hold down the space bar and you can talk, and then I think if you release it, it should go back. On the upper right, there should be a little button. It'll say either speaker view or gallery view, and you can switch back and forth. So the gallery view is kind of like a Brady Bunch sort of a thing where you can see everybody's pictures in a grid. And if you go to speaker view, then it'll show one big picture, which has whoever's speaking currently, and then it'll have little pictures, usually on the top, and that'll be everybody else. Now, once we start the presentation, Dennis will do screen sharing. That'll be your main screen. Will be Dennis's screen. So that's basically what you need here. There is a chat. So if you go to the bottom, there's a little window that says chat. So if you're having an audio problem or something and you want to ask a question, you can always type it in and it will appear in the chat. And for those who are on YouTube, there is a little a window. I'm just looking over to the side here. You can type into the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen if you want to ask a question, and then I'll relay it to the speaker. I guess it's 7:15. Did you want to get started? And then
Okay.
I'll start the recording. All right.
Okay, we can start the meeting. Welcome to the April 28th, 2020 online meeting of the MARC Radio Club. Something new for everybody here. My name is Rich, KB3VZL, and do a roll call. Anybody whose call sign last letter is Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, or Delta, please sign in.
Al, N3EA in Florida.
WA3ABI, Vince in Havertown. And how you doing, Al?
How you doing, Vince?
Okay. Anyone with Echo, Foxtrot, Gulf, or Hotel?
Fred, K2HA, over here in Broomall, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Anyone last letter? India, Juliet, Kilo, or Lima?
I guess that's me, Lou, WX3I.
Hello,
This
Lou.
is, yeah, this is Steve, KS3K in Boynton Beach, Florida.
All right. Anybody with Mike, November, Oscar, Papa? Anyone with Quebec, Romeo, Sierra, Tango?
This is N2 ZLQ, Jeremy in Villanova.
Anyone with Uniform Victor Whiskey? Anyone with X-Ray Yankee Zulu?
Alan Johnston, KU2Y in Philadelphia.
Hello? Anyone we missed?
W3JNF, Jim. I think I have my mute on.
Oh, okay. Anyone with no call sign? Okay. Thank you for everybody signing in. Lou, if we could get the treasurer's report from you, please.
Currently we have $10,532.37 in the bank. We've had a number of memberships that I finally got around to depositing, so that brought us up a little bit. But then we had Bob Palin, who he likes to submit his expenses in bunches, so we had some expenses from Bob Palin for public service events. So those were our expenses. You know, and the only other expense was our normal PO box fee that comes up every 6 months. So that's where we are with the money. As far as membership, we're currently at 55 members. I have a couple of checks I have to go through. There are some duplicates. I think people, when their checks were not cashed until this month, they sent another check. So we'll have to wait for all that to settle out. But right now, 55 members.
We have one member that likes to pay 3 or 4 times. Has he gotten caught up yet?
I think he is. Yeah. He would hand me money every time I saw him, but he hasn't done that recently.
Oh, okay. All right. Secretary report from Jim, W3JNF.
Good evening, everyone. Really nothing to report other than not having meetings or anything. So I'll turn it back to you, Rich.
Thank you. Public relations, Ted Zarcone, KC3IGM. Nice to see you tonight, Ted. Have you got anything to report? Did we lose Ted or is he muted? I think we lost him. Okay. Technical services, Dennis, K3DS.
Okay, well, all the repeaters are working. Wish our technical committee consisted of more than me, myself, and I, but maybe we can get Alan involved someday. Just a small administrative problem. We took over the DCAA repeater in 2012, and ever since then, 6 years, 8 years later, it's been running with the call sign W3UER, primarily because it has an old SCOM 7K controller. And what would happen was we came up against the expiration of W3UER as a call sign. That was the club call sign, a memorial call sign from days past. And I somehow, don't ask me how, but I slipped into the Fitzgerald Mercy Hospital, made it up to the 10th floor with the cooperation of protective services there in the hospital and some people that know how to get in there. And I ended up reprogramming the controller. So now when you get on 147.3.6 for the first time, it'll now say WB3JOE. So that's my technical report.
Thank you, Dennis. Now, Bob's not with us online right now, but I understand, Jeremy, you have some information from him?
Yes. Yeah, Bob sends his regrets that he can't join us on Zoom, but I think he is following on YouTube. So unfortunately, due to the ongoing issues, all public service events for the spring have been canceled. So that's all events up through and including the Memorial Day Parade at the end of May. So unfortunately, they're all gone, as are all of the other in-person club events. But Bob will be running a simulated public service event. This will be Saturday, May 9th. That's the day before Mother's Day, starting at 8 a.m. He said it'll run for about 1 hour. So I think it'll start with a brief discussion about public service. So basically what we're doing in public service. And then he'll do a simulation. So I don't know exactly what form it will take, but he may have some sort of a simulated event where we have to count things that are happening or report ongoing events. He said it'll be no more than 1 hour, and it starts Saturday, May 9th at 8 o'clock a.m. So if you're interested in getting involved in public service, this is a great way to do it. So that was basically what I had to present from Bob. Hopefully for the fall, we'll be able to get some events going, but for now, everything is on the shelf.
Is he providing T-shirts?
I don't think there's any T-shirts and probably no donuts either. If they were brought around, I'm not sure I'd want to eat them either. Maybe he'll mail you donuts.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Next meeting is scheduled for May 26th. I would imagine that we're going to do it again this way. I don't foresee us opening up at that point. Field Day is June 27 and 28, which remains in limbo until the governor decides what he wants to do.
We can have it on a golf course.
The possibility that we each run our own field day from our own residence is a thought that a lot of people have had. I think a lot of people are planning on doing that, but that's something we can discuss further. Our Hamfest is scheduled for setup July 6th and execution July 7th. Again, this is something that we're going to have to decide what we're going to do. It's going to depend on a couple of factors. One, what the government allows us to do, and two, what club members are going to be available, who wants to come out and who's going to be able to help. We need a decent sized pool of personnel, and just 5 or 6 can't do it. So we're going to have to make a decision at some point. Another thought would be, I can start the process of trying to get some door prizes and hold some sort of virtual raffle, or have people get tickets by PayPal or something, circulate it with other clubs, and do a raffle that way, see what we can pick up if we want to do it. So this is something that we're going to have to discuss. I would like to propose the possibility of a meeting of this sort for the board of directors, possibly the first Tuesday next month. We can discuss that online later. Have a few things to go over. Other than that, is there anyone with anything for the good of the group?
Rich, those are a Monday and a Tuesday, right? July 6th and 7th. Is that right?
No, Friday the 6th and Saturday the 7th, I believe. Unless I have my dates wrong. We got it off our flyer, but it's the first weekend.
The Ham Fest, I think that's the 11th or the 12th.
That maybe I looked at the wrong flyer.
Because we're going to be the weekend after Harrisburg. It's the 11th because Harrisburg is going to be July 4th if they do have it.
Maybe I looked at the prior year's flyer for that
Yeah,
date.
I think last year was July 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't put anything up for this year, and for that matter, Harrisburg and Sussex haven't put anything up either. So I think they're probably in the same position we are.
Okay, that's why I got it off our website, and then I guess that's last year's flyer. My apologies. Anyone else with anything for the good of the group?
So I'd say we had a couple of check-ins through YouTube. We have Bob N3UD and Brian N3MDE. They've both checked in through YouTube, and there's 7 total watching, so we probably have a few more.
What was Brian's call sign?
N3MDE, Mike Delta Echo.
Okay, thank you.
Jeremy, is Bob's public service test on May 9th? Is that on Zoom or is that on repeater?
It'll be on the repeater.
Okay.
On 147.06 and 145.13.
Thanks.
Okay, has anybody done any interesting projects while they've been cooped up? Built anything or had any interesting contacts?
Been on a lot of nets. That's mostly what I've been doing.
These are moving pictures. It looks like I'm looking at a wall of photographs here. Okay. Without any further ado, a man who needs no introduction, so we won't introduce him. Dennis, K3DS, is speaking tonight about AMSTET activities at the Temple University Amateur Radio Club.
Okay,
Dennis, thank you for your efforts, and we'll let you take it over.
Okay, I have audio, right?
You sound good.
Okay, so let me share the screen again. Let's see, get this going, get this going, share. So you should see the start of that. And, this other ways I can do it. Okay, there we go. So hopefully you can see the screen there. Can I get a did from somebody?
Looks good.
Okay, all right. So this was originally designed to follow Alan's talk, very excellent talk in January. It's going to be like a onesies and twosies, but the February meeting was canceled. So I just thought we'd push it back a little bit. And we'll talk here about the AMSAT station activities at K3TU. K3TU is the Temple University Amateur Radio Club. It's a courtesy call. We don't call them vanity calls. They're courtesy calls. I'll tell you a little bit about that. It came online. There's the website for the club. You can learn all about the club there at the Temple website too. So we're not moving ahead here. All right, so a little bit of background. The Temple University Amateur Radio Club is not very old compared to even my University of Pennsylvania alma mater. It's held the call signs K3JKI, and as far as I could tell from the old call books, that's a 1960s call. And that call was lost because when you give an amateur radio club to students, sometimes it just doesn't perpetuate, it just sort of falls by the wayside. So the club call was resurrected in the 70s, 1973, as WA3TVT. And we have a couple of MARC club members that certainly remember that call from that era, that particular era. And in 1996, when vanity call signs were first day of issue, pretty much, I jumped on K3TU, and that's what it is, except in voice or even CW contest, I guess. CW contest, TU is thank you. So it's sometimes hard to separate the call sign from the end of the QSO, but that's the way it goes. It certainly is, sounds a little better. So there's our QSL cards over the era anyway. Now, somewhat unique about this club, there are amateur radio clubs at various universities. I have a couple of models that are very similar to this. It's essentially a university club, and it's open to licensed students, staff, faculty, and even alumni. We actually have alumni that come in and operate on occasion, especially when you see what the station looks like. We're an ARL affiliated club. We're also subscribing to this other effort by the league called the Collegiate Amateur Radio Initiative, trying to get amateur radio back on campuses. And we certainly participate in that. That's a nice shot of our engineering building. It's a 9-story building, but it doesn't look anywhere as bucolic as this right now, because being an urban university, we don't have a lot of land. So they actually ended up building another building right in the foreground of this scene. So it looks nothing like this anymore. Got covered up by another glass monstrosity called the Cirque building, but that's the way that goes. But at least we just still have the nine-story setup, if you will. Okay, just gotta make sure I get the next slide. Come on. Okay, so we've been at AMSAT work, satellite work, for a reasonably long time, because I discovered in our archives that the Temple University Amateur Radio Club, K3TU, has a long history of AMSAT activities. In fact, what I discovered in our pile of QSL cards was that WA3TVT, I put worked, but obviously it was just a telemetry. It's a copy, I guess. We copied Oscar 6 in 1973, and we do have the card to prove it. So that's a very famous satellite that we have put up. It's the one with the tape measure antennas. It's I guess it's very nostalgic in that sense. But anyway, we do have the QSL card dating from 1973. So I got to Temple after 10 years at the University of Pennsylvania doing research. Temple was building an engineering program, and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Plus, it was just change a subway stop to go across town. It was okay. So I arrived in 1984, and to discover that the club, WA3TVT, existed. There were no faculty involved, and the licensee, the holder of the call sign, was a student who had already graduated by 1 year. And in that particular era, there was a club moratorium, if you will. It'd be very difficult to maintain the club call, but I was able to capture it. So what it was worth, we put the WA3TVT back on the air in 1984. Now, the first thing I did was I turned around and said, okay, well, we can't just exist with a Kenwood 520 and a couple of wire antennas and things like that. We really got to go whole hog here. So I went to administration, made the case for moving amateur radio back into electrical engineering education. I am a professor in the department, and I convinced not only the department, but also the college to fund all kinds of new stuff. So this is all new stuff in 1984, and I'll just concentrate on the satellite stuff for now. This shows the 1984 vintage, well configured for the AMSAT setup at the TUARC. So in 1988, we started to acquire the equipment, and we ended up getting a brand new ICOM IC271, a brand new ICOM IC471 on 440, and those were linkable. I'll show you the ICOM hardware for that. You can actually link the two transceivers together and get them to track and things like that, which is good for AMSAT activity. But I also had and there wasn't a lot of people in the air, I can tell you that. I also was able to get a rare 1296 megahertz ICOM IC1271, which we actually still have. It puts out about 8 to 10 watts or so, and we have a nice Yagi antenna, so we could certainly make somewhat of a noise on 1296 anyway. So in that particular era, we at first used an unsophisticated ICOM CT16 satellite interface unit. And there's the box, that's what it looked like, to lock the IC271 and the 471 together for uplink and downlink, but not Doppler shift correction. You can get them to track one another, but if you had Doppler shift, then that was like a manual thing that one had to produce. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But it was nice because an external unit like that meant one less thing to worry about. We could actually lock the two transceivers together. This was in the era before ICOM came up with satellite capable radios and things like that. So the first antennas we put up were KLM cross-polarized Yagis on long boomers for 144 and 440 with the manual Yaesu Kenpro ASL rotor. There's the typical box there. So if you have an ASL system, you're going to be doing tracking. You're going to try to track the low Earth orbiting satellite passes as they go whipping by. And you do have your little toggle switches there and have to be nimble fingers, but that's the way the setup was. But decided that wasn't something really want to live with too long. But by the way, this is a 30-foot Roan tower sitting on top of the 10-story building. And these are the ASL antennas, cross-polarized antennas. That's a fiberglass boom here. And one rotor here and one rotor right here. Well, manual tracking is not easy. So it was very hard to operate. Now in electrical engineering education, we have a capstone design project. You're supposed to do a project with a team so that when you leave your undergraduate training, you at least have something for your portfolio. So one way I can imbue the amateur radio club to the department in a college is to run a multitude of senior design projects over the years. So in this particular era, as I said, ECE students have a capstone design project, and TUARC has sponsored the development of a microcomputer for automatic control of ASL tracking. So here's what the box looked like. The embedded computer was a Zilog Z80 running Interpreter Basic, had a lot of IO ports that can control things and stuff like that. And the students basically did all the work. Here's the picture of the embedded computer with the Zilog 8-bit microcomputer running in Z Basic, which is an Interpreter Basic, if you will. And we're primarily designed with trying to automate the ASL tracking, if you will. So in order to do this, there is Keplerian elements, Kepler named after Johannes Kepler, but they are the elements that are broadcast for tracking parameters. So the students learned all about that and converted the ASL tracking into code and basic and things like that. Getting the ASL data, the Keplerian data, however, was somewhat difficult before the internet, but it could be gotten eventually. And the microcomputer had a 3 megahertz clock and no floating point coprocessor. So it goes to show you what you could do with basic equipment. It wasn't exactly a smartphone. A couple of nice things about it, though, down here in the corner, there's a battery backup SRAM, so you can at least write some parameters. We could write the setup ahead of time and just tell it to take off when the time came. So that was kind of nice to have something like that. So the ASL calculations were done offline before the satellite pass in non-real time and then stored in battery backup SRAM memory, as I said, so that you could basically just turn it on and it will start tracking automatically through the loop. Now, the IEEE, the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, no longer runs this award, but it's kind of an interesting backstory. The IEEE sponsors this Region 2 award. Now, Region 2 award is Middle Atlantic states, all the way up to West Point, all the way down to DC, all the way out to Long Island, and all the way out to Penn State. So it's a kind of a big territory. So we put the original project, which was the satellite tracking system, up as a submission to this particular contest, if you will, for all these schools. And lo and behold, here we have a brand new program. In 87, 88 was the calendar year. We actually won. And as we're going to tell you, we actually put it in for the second year with Doppler shift correction, and we won 2 years in a row. And a little bit of a backstory is I understand that there was a local university, started with a D. It wasn't a V, Alan and Jeremy. The local university started with a D that after we won in 87, 88, they put a tremendous push to try to beat us in the second year. And lo and behold, they did it. So we're very proud about that. So the original award was for the ASL tracking microcomputer, as I said, and we then added on the Doppler shift correction, which was certainly a nice add-on, as it turns out, to this particular project. So basically, the ASL tracking calculations that set the initial Nagy position by basically firing a relay and moving the paddle switches up and down, left and right, and that sort of thing. And then the ICOM 271 and 471 had receiver incremental tuning, which was actually a pot feeding a varactor. So we could actually come in with a digital analog converter and provide a signal that would replace the RIT control to get the Doppler shift correction. So that was kind of nice. We had a complete setup there, and it was very easy to make low Earth orbiting satellite contacts using that setup, which we used for many years. So this is what comparative elements look like. They can be decoded relatively easily. These are just ASCII strings, so it's relatively easy to do. These days, these elements are sent by bulletins. They're sent out all the time. If you really want to get into it in that manner, I subscribe to it through ARL, as you can see. But you can certainly get a hold of them a lot easier than we could in 1988, 89. Now, interestingly, as another backstory, AEA was bought out by TimeWave, so we'll call it AEA TimeWave. They produced a functionally similar ST1 satellite tracker in 1998. I think we should have got royalties for it or something. I don't know. But obviously, they did it as an independent development, and it came out about a decade after we did our work. So we actually decommissioned the venerable Z80 because it wasn't getting any younger, and we went off and bought the AEL satellite tracker for the station. Now but that was a problem. The large ASL satellite array was heavy. It's subjected to high wind loads. You wouldn't think that they would be very high wind loads, but it really didn't have a very good footprint when we had our whipping winds here in Philadelphia. So that's what the setup looked like. And from 1988 to 2009, the array was actually rebuilt 4 times due to damage. Damage was quite severe. The cross brace broke, the booms broke, you name it. Every time I came in a wintry storm or even a summer storm period, I always had my heart in my mouth whether we would actually have an antenna. The middle scene there is recruiting undergraduate students to climb towers and work on the antennas. As you could tell, it's not too bad to climb, but it's bad enough if they fall. But we do have a climbing belt. So after rebuilding them 4 times, I gave up. That was not going to happen anymore. So what did we do? Well, what we did was in 2014, I just had it with the ASL satellite array, and we considered a reconfiguration. Went after some more money, and what you see here is the before and after shot. It's the same tower essentially. The ASL array was taken down and it was replaced by 2 sidearms, which you can see here in this scene, with the M2 windmill antennas for 144 and 440 are in the same tower. This is actually a dual band stick sitting on top of the tower. No use wasting the situation there. So if you're not familiar with the M2 satellite antennas, they're frightfully expensive. But the good news is you don't have to point them. They only have about a 5.5 dB reference to carrier, 5 dB, say 5.5 dB gain, nowhere near the gain of the KLM Yagis, which were more like 15 dB. But certainly they've been staying up since 2014, so we're very happy about that. Now, because we have a little bit less receiver gain, I just wanted to have belt and suspenders here. So since money was flowing, I said, okay, let's, besides spending several hundreds of dollars for the windmill antenna and the sidearms and all that, let's go out to advanced receiver research and buy these inline RF switched. So you don't have to worry about any kind of complex sequencing or something like that. They can switch up to 160 watts. They're gas-fed preamps with 24 and 16 dB gain on 2 and 440 and a noise figure, not spectacular, but certainly it's the gain at the antenna with a very, very short lead that really makes the difference. you can take them out by unpowering them and see what the difference is, and it really is striking, to say the least. So we lost about 10 dB of transmit signal because of the antenna downgrade. Well, we usually were only running a couple of watts anyway, and with the Azel Yagi, we didn't have to run that much power anyway. We're now running on our satellite station a Kenwood TS2000. Actually, it's my Kenwood TS2000 that I donated to K3TU because that'll run up to about 50 watts. So we have more than enough power for normal communication, uplink and downlink. So that's okay. Made up for the loss. The Kenwood 2000 is no longer in production, but it's a hell of a radio in many different aspects. It's HF plus 6 meters plus 2 and 440, all mode. And it does have satellite capability built in for tracking. So that's what we're currently running, and it's a great little radio for doing that anyway. Let me show you some other things because I'm finishing up the talk here about the K3TU. One is I pointed out that Diamond X300A sitting on the same tower. That's used to work 2 meter and 440 analog FM and digital repeaters, whatever. We have that capability at the station also. That's very nice. It's sitting on the same tower. However, it was struck by lightning. I came in one day and I said, well, the tower looks a little short. Apparently it got hit by lightning, destroyed it, shattered the fiberglass, and did a real job all the way down to the mounting ground plane. But the station survived in more ways than one. These pictures here show the grounding system on the roof just before the feeds go up to these are all ground wires actually going over to the coaxes. And that's a nice ground bus and heavy ground wire to the building dynamics. And these are our polyphasers inside the club. I highly recommend them because I think they really save the station in more ways than one. And that's certainly a good example. Even the 2 meter rig that was hooked up to this survived. Everything was fine. Even the polyphasers survived, which was pretty interesting too. So these capstone design projects, I think, are a great way to move amateur radio into a college environment. They've continued through a variety of different projects that I've been working on over the years. Many years ago, we were doing experimental modems for satellite telemetry. There were some modem designs out there that came about for different modulation methods and things like that, Gaussian shift keying and things like that. But we had some students design some experimental modems for satellite telemetry, and then also reconfiguring the station. This is a poster from the senior design project after one of the many failures of the antenna to survive a windstorm damage. So basically reconfiguring the antenna, requalifying everything, and getting the new modem working. So the other thing that 2ARC's been doing, and I highly recommend this as a STEM activity, is to support LEO satellites, amateur radio satellites for outreach STEM activity. One of the projects outside of AMSAT USA is AMSAT UK, and that's the FunCube satellite telemetry project that's been around for about 5 or 6 or 7 years now. And this is a project that you could get into a STEM activity, relatively easy. The dongle that runs it is a specialized SDR type device with bandpass filters and excellent performance. A little bit pricey, but really does perform very well with virtually no additional equipment needed to do anything other than just hooking up the dongle. And they do have FunCube satellites and the idea of downloading telemetry and then archiving it to the internet and things like that. So it's an AMSAT UK project. Fun in space with amateur radio. You can use freeware software like you can with any other SDR. So here's SDR Sharp showing some reception and stuff like that. And if you really want to get into this, I know Alan is certainly a promoter of this also. The quadrifilar antenna can be used for reception. I have this pamphlet, the W3KH quadrifilar helix antenna. You could get some relatively good afternoons sitting there bending wires and using PVC pipe and things like that to build a relatively nice receiving antenna, especially with the short coax run, where you might be able to copy a few of these things out in the open. And if that's all we did at K3TU, I guess we'd be a very poor amateur radio station. We have other station activities. That's here's a shot of our HF setup, which is a Kenwood 2000. It's also the satellite antenna. And we have a 3-element Mosley CL33. And the comments we get on that is, can you turn the amplifier off? And we always say, what amplifier? And then we have our verticals for our 2 repeaters. We have a 2-meter and a 440 repeater, which are cross-linked analog repeaters. And this is our VHF UHF array, 2 meters, 440, and 1296 sitting on another tower. So as I said, the TS2000 for satellite activity is also the primary HF station using the CL33, and quite a thrill operating antenna at 150 feet. So if anybody ever wants to operate, we'll see what we can do for you if we can ever get back on campus. It's relatively active over the years. It's not something that I try to necessarily worry about too much. If we have some active amateurs over the years, we have had them, and we've got drawers full of QSL cards and all of our DX Century, WAC, WAS awards and all that. So especially with the HF antenna, we also have an inverted V for bands lower than 20. So we have an all mode station. As I said, we started out with the 2 ICOM radios, which have now been decommissioned. They were sold on eBay, works great. Actually, it did work when I sold them. And we developed some slush fund money for the club. And that's been replaced by a TS2000. So I think even on all mode, we're in fairly good shape up there. We have our cross-linked analog repeaters, our 440 and our 220 antenna and our 440 antenna. And it's an SCOM 7330, the same controller that we have here in MARC also. This whole repeater setup, those of us who have been around a while, was down at Newman College for the longest time. In fact, I helped put it on the air, not with this controller, but when that station basically was decommissioned, I said, okay, I'll put it on back on the air. So here we sit on 442.8, 224.8 crosslink. So we also have a 144.39 APRS station, which is very popular because of its location and its dedicated antenna also. In fact, I've been getting emails recently because on April 15th, the APRS station went belly up. I have no idea what happened. It's not the first time the transmitter went off, but I have been barred from going back up to see what's going on. But I'll get there real soon now and hopefully get that back. Other students who don't have licenses are interested in RF spectrum analysis and things like that. So we do have a decommissioned HP spectrum analyzer, still works fine. And an ICOM R7000 VHF UHF repeater and a discone antenna for general coverage for students that want to copy various modulation signals and things like that for further experiments. So that's the AMSAT station activities at your local collegiate amateur radio station. And if there's any questions, I certainly can take them. Anybody got anything?
Well, just the people are muted, so if they have a question, we'll have to unmute.
Here we go.
Yeah, I unmuted.
Okay, there you go. Well, I thought I did too, but. Okay. All righty, any questions?
Looks like Vince is raising his hand.
Oh.
I think he's clapping.
Oh, okay.
All right.
You've got everybody's video turned to black.
Yeah, you should be able to turn back on if you want. I just shut everything off to reduce bandwidth during Dennis's talk. Hey, Dennis, I do have one question for you.
Sure.
Do you notice any difference with the loss of gain that now that you've switched to the smaller antennas?
Well, I mean, you know, it's like trying to remember what it was like, but the answer is no. I don't notice any loss of gain or reception capability. Those preamps do an excellent job, unbelievable job.
I have one question from YouTube. How many members do you have in the club at Temple?
Okay, well, of course, it's a movable feast. All I can do is remember what it was in January and February when we fired up again. Usually we're in the 24 range, something like that. It's also open to staff and faculty. We have a faculty member in computer science, AB3 TL, I think his call is. And we have a staff member in our college, so we also have that. But generally, we have a push lock on the door, and there is a video recording for people that are coming in and out, and it's 24/7. When we're there, everybody can come in and just operate.
Thanks.
Well, thank you, Dennis. Nice presentation.
Very nice, very nice.
Jeremy? Jeremy, this is Al.
Hey, Al. How are you doing?
You need to allow the video. We can't turn it on ourselves.
Oh, okay. I can't. Okay. Sorry about that. I can.
There you go.
My mic might be working now.
It is, Ted.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You know, amateur radio in a collegiate setup is kind of interesting. When I was an undergrad at Northeastern University, we had not one but two amateur radio stations on campus. One was W1KBN, which still exists, and the other one was a K1 call, an Army Mars station. Remember, the W1KBN was so popular that you had to sign up for time ahead of time just to go operate. So things have certainly changed. At my alma mater at Penn, we had a very nice setup once upon a time, but with no faculty involvement, next thing you know, the station is decommissioned, the antennas are taken down, that's the end of that. That's why I'm hoping for big things for Villanova, so they can get their station back on the air, W3YP.
If anybody else wants me to start their video, I can do that. I think I got everybody.
Dennis, that was a very good presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Nice job, Dennis. Thanks.
I think this went well. We've had about 10 people on YouTube watching as well. Do have a couple more check-ins. We have Saul, Whiskey 3, Whiskey Hotel Kilo, that's W3, WHK from the Holmesburg Club. And we have Drew, KA1M, that's Kilo Alpha 1 Mike from Binghamton, New York. He checked in as well. He's involved with satellite activities up at Copernic Observatory in upstate New York.
Well, thank you to all our visitors and thank you to our club members. And once again, Dennis, thank you for your presentation. Most informative. Does anyone else have anything for the good of the group?
Okay. And we just got a check in from Alan, AB3FN, through YouTube. A couple of silent folks on YouTube watching as well, but I think we had 23 people tonight, or 24 maybe.
Nice. You still have my video off, Jeremy. Not that it matters.
It's probably for the best.
Yeah.
I know.
No, I think you're on now.
Well,
you may have to turn it on yourself.
I did, and it's not doing anything, but it doesn't matter. Okay. Oh, here we go. I got a message from you. Okay.
Under participants, Jim, it does show that your video is supposed to be on.
I know it does, but it's not. It's not, right? I'm not seeing it.
You've never looked better, Jim.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Hey, Ted.
Oh, Ted, your mic's working.
Yeah, finally, it was chose a different one, a headset or something for some reason.
Okay.
Jim, did you pay your electric bill?
I guess not. I get the check's in the mail. Right, Lou?
Yeah, they have to actually receive the check before the.
Well, it's a radio club, not a video club, so you really can't complain.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
Well, I gotta tell you, Jim, your block printing is very nice on your name and call.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I just want to say to Dennis, I really enjoyed that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So overall, it seemed to go pretty well. So we may
Yeah,
have
I
to
think
do this for a while, depending on how things go.
Yes.
Yes, if anyone wants to chat on the repeater, I've got the radio on. We can do that. Otherwise, we could stay here and chat for a bit, if you'd like. And Rich, if you want to set up a board meeting, just let me know, because we can do that pretty much anytime.
Sure. Yeah, I'm thinking either first or second Tuesday
Okay.
next month.
Well, first Tuesday would be next Tuesday.
Then let's make it the second Tuesday.
All right, because that's May 10th or something like that.
Okay.
Second
Tentative.
Tuesday is May 12th.
12th. Yeah, I did get out to the Giant today. They did have paper towels and toilet paper. So,
Wow.
and now it's meat they're worried about.
So did you stock up?
Yeah, I only got a few. Hold on, Bob's over on the repeater. Let me.
I'm going to make the Florida people feel real bad. Steve, KS3K, do you have Maggiano's down there? That's a chain, I think. Does it sound familiar?
Yeah, we've got one in Boca Raton.
Okay, because the one up here at King of Prussia at the mall, they have a deal, 5 pasta dishes takeaway for $40, but you really can't beat with a stick. So the other day, we went over there and bought 10 dinners.
Yeah, that's a little too far for me to just drive over for takeout.
Relay that along into ZLQ, and I will be clear.
I do have a question. We have somebody here named Kai on the call, and I'm wondering, is that Kai Suwiak?
What? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Just wondering, I know a Kai over here in Florida. I know a Kai Suwiak, and I didn't know if that was you.
No, that's not me. That's not my full name. My full name is Kai Xuan. My call sign is AC3EN.
Okay, because if it was the Kai I know, that would make 3 of us here on this call from the South Florida DX Club.
It's a hostile takeover. Yeah, Bob just called in on the repeater, sent his regards, said it was a good meeting and a good talk.
Well, Steve, it was nice to see you. It's been a while, but again, it's been nice to see you.
It's good to see everybody, and I could show up tomorrow and not miss a beat. Everything's the same.
I got to ask Al if he wants to come up to Bryn Mawr Hospital, look at the 220 repeater with me sometime.
Oh, sure. Just like the old days, eh, Dennis?
I don't know if you guys know it, but we have a 220 repeater sitting at Bryn Mawr Hospital.
It's been sitting there for years and no one knows it's there.
I met with the hospital. They were doing some building, and I put up a new building at Bryn Mawr and all that. And there was a big thing about what they were going to do about the roof, and they never got back to me. So every time I check it, it still seems to be on the air. But that thing's got to be 30 years old if it's a day.
Yeah, easily 30 years old. Looks like I lost my video again.
Jim, you're back.
I know. I had a cover over the camera and I forgot.
Take off.
Way to go, Jim.
It was a technical.
Better with the lens cap off.
At least I admitted it.
Don't do any ATV, Jim. Don't do any ATV.
You know, every time I do one of these Zoom meetings, more people have discovered the backgrounds. It's interesting.
Yeah, I like yours, Lou. That's nice.
Yeah, and I actually have the package I'm using. I can use on Zoom or WebEx or anything. So
nice.
It's when I do my Skywarn presentations, I use this.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so like let's see, wait a minute. So like I can switch to the Skywarn presentation and back and forth and all that stuff.
Wow.
Can you run a video background on these?
Well, I could. I don't have mine set up to do that. I do have some videos I play during the Skywarn presentation, but I don't have it set up as a background, but I could certainly do that.
Be interesting to set your background so that the tornado is approaching.
Yeah. I'll have to, maybe I'll do that for the next presentation.
I got to tell you, Lou, I sent a flaming email to AccuWeather. The other day, they said it was 38 degrees and snowing. It was 59 out. The sun was shining, no clouds in the sky. And I told them who I was, what equipment I had. I mentioned that I live a couple of blocks from you, not by name, but by your credentials. And I said, you should be embarrassed to put out a weather report like that. And that whoever you're getting your information from, put new batteries in the station.
Did you get a reply?
No, I really thought I would get a reply from them, but no. But they are constantly so wrong, it's not funny. My wife looks at her cell phone and says, well, this is what they say. What's your weather station say?
Yeah, they, I mean, so much of that stuff is just totally automated. So if something screws up in the automation, it's just bad.
They're constantly like 10 degrees off, and they're just so far out of whack, it's not funny.
Yeah, but it's not just up your way, Rich. It's they're the same down here in Florida. They're very inaccurate.
Well, that's a good name for them, inaccurate weather.
Inaccurate weather.
Yeah, they could rebrand themselves and start a whole new thing.
Yes, I usually do mention to these people that they should check or have their highly trained factory authorized technicians check into the parameters that they're putting out.
Yeah. On another topic, did anybody get to see the flyover today?
I went outside, I heard them, and I think they were low down in the tree lines from where I was, so I couldn't see them directly.
Okay, yeah, I drove out to Willow Grove, because they were actually flying out to Willow Grove and then flying back to Philadelphia. So I got to see them fly over.
Nice.
Yeah, I just heard them, didn't see them a little bit, but didn't see anything, not even trails or nothing, just sounds.
Yeah, well, they were not at high altitude. They were pretty low. So, if you had a lot of trees around, you probably didn't see them.
I think they may have flown by the Bryn Mawr Hospital, but I'm like a mile from there. So maybe that's why I didn't see them, because they're probably flying low. So, if you're more than, a fraction of a mile away, you don't really see them very well.
Yeah.
And fast too, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, they weren't going super fast out by Willow Grove, but, they were, they were primarily doing Philadelphia. So they just flew out to Willow Grove to, actually, I'm not quite sure why they chose the flight path they did, but they came out to Willow Grove, flew out. I was at the Willow Grove Mall, and they flew out to the Naval Air Station, and then they flew back to Philadelphia. So,
Lou, I don't know if you remember this. You're way too young, but where the Willow Grove Mall is, it used to be an amusement park called Willow Grove Amusement Park.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember that.
You're right, Dennis. That's before my time, but that they still call it the Willow Grove Park Mall, right? I think. So, I guess that's why.
See, Al, we had Disneyland before Disneyland up here.
Yeah, that's real true.
Many a class trip to Willow Grove Mall.
We used to go. I went there like in 8th grade or something, and they had the big ride called the Alps. The Alps.
Okay. Well, I'm going to drop off, guys, but yeah, these online meetings do work. So glad you got that together. Glad you took care of it, Jeremy.
All right, thanks. I think I may cut the YouTube feed in a couple of minutes and maybe stop recording. So if people
Okay.
want to hang out and chat, we can do that. And then everything is recorded, so I can send out the link to the membership.
Okay.
Okay, great. See you later, guys.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay,
Bye.
73.
Hey, Vince, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Al. We'll
Thank
have
you,
to catch
everybody.
up somewhere along the line.
Yeah,
Thank
drop
you,
me
everybody,
an
for
email.
attending.
I will. I will.
Thank you,
Jeremy,
Jeremy, for your.
I got a question for you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
You're probably using the paid version of Zoom. Does the free version allow you to go over a 40-minute meeting?
It's been variable. Nominally, the answer is no, but I've heard from people who haven't been kicked off, but then I've also heard from people who are. But the pro account, I think, is $15 a month, so it's not bad.
Just
Right
a
now, I'm using a Villanova account through work.
Yeah, just a comment. I've had several scout meetings and family meetings, and we've gone 2 or 3 hours, and we were not kicked off. So.
But I was on one recently where we did get kicked off at 40 minutes. So
Okay. So it
maybe during peak times they might do that.
makes sense.
So.
Okay, thanks. I just want to know because I have to run a meeting and we're trying to figure out whether we want to do it over the phone or do a Zoom conference, but all I have is the free version.
Yeah. Because Marple Newtown, they did a meeting over the repeater. That was actually very nice. It was a Fred K2HA. I think he dropped off, but he did a really, really nice presentation. And I think next week they're going to have an interview with Mike KB3HMR. I'm sure that'll be fun because he's an engineer. He's involved in a lot of different projects. So that should be a fun meeting. It's a little different because there's no video portion to it. So it's a very particular type of presentation that you need to do for that. Yes, I think.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I'm
Okay,
going
we'll
to
see you
say
all.
good night.
Nice to see everybody.
Right. Good to see everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, very good to see everybody.
Yeah.
73, everybody, and thanks for having me.
Stay safe, guys.
Good night.
Be healthy.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Ed.
I guess I'm out of here too. I'll see you guys later.